Good grief. The amount of depth. I'm like learning so much. The amount of depth that this guy went into. Excellent video. Well done. I'm going to finish it, but I just wanted to say that because I'm learning so much and I'm actually like focusing so hard on what he's saying. Because it's actually cool. It's interesting, man. It's like world building stuff that I think is cool because I like how world building goes and like I like seeing worlds that make sense and that actually have some depth and like you can dig into what's going on in them. It's not all just surface level. It's pretty cool. It shows that they do think this stuff out. This is Game Theory. These 25 Pokemon are dead because of you. I have no idea what this is. I just saw it on my recommended. So let's hop right into it and see what we think. Okay.
Congratulations, you are killing Pokemon. In the
Congratulations, we're killing Pokemon.
established canon of the Pokemon series, we, our player character at least, are the reason that at least 25 Pokemon species have gone extinct. That's not even really a theory. It is established within the canon. To be fair, it's buried way down in there and requires you to connect a few dots, but I have 100% confidence that Game Freak has expressly put this in here for observant, dedicated players. And perhaps strangest of all, this steamrolling of the wildlife, us bumping innocent animals permanently off the mortal coil, it's all because of a message from God. The Pokemon God, Arceus. He gives us this divine mission to
take thy holy cell phone and destroy.
Exterminate the Mon. If you thought Pokemon lore was weird before, just wait until you hear this one. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the only show that's nerdy enough to remind you that Ho-Oh isn't just a Pokemon, it's also the chemical formula for hydrogen peroxide. Drop that knowledge bomb the next time
I totally needed to know that.
Period chemistry class. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 things that are certain in this world: death, taxes, and new Pokemon games. We just had a Pokemon Presents last week. We're rapidly approaching the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Even Pokemon Go is making itself a bit of a resurgence. In short, Pokemania is in the air. So I figured it was time we took another look.
Don't forget the trading card game.
Game to talk about than the smash hit of 2022, Pokemon Legends Arceus. While recent remakes have literally just been recycling the Pokemon formula that's been reused since the mid-90s, Legends Arceus threw that formula out into the trubbish. It's the first game in the core series to give players an open world to explore. But while it certainly was a new look,
I mean, it was kind of an open world. It was still pretty boxed in. There were still places you couldn't go, and walls and ledges and borders and things. It wasn't seamlessly open world. It was just, you didn't have to follow like a specific route by route direction on where to go like you did with the old games.
Wasn't a new world. In this game, you're actually running through an ancient version of Sinnoh, the region from Gen 4's Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. How far back in the past are we talking? Unfortunately, the game doesn't explicitly tell us, but based on the somewhat modern amenities of Jubilife Village, like binded books, brimmed hats, and steam-powered Pokeballs, as well as the architectural inspiration for the Galaxy Hall, the game seems to take place in the Meiji era of Japanese history, which took place from around 1868 to 1912. And given the houses and clothing in Jubilife Village seem to resemble that of the Edo era, the era prior to Meiji, more likely to be closer to that 140 years ago mark. So really, this thing was one part Pokemon game and one part history lesson for that fictional region. And while it's certainly fun picking up on all the similarities from—
Which is cool, honestly. I'm excited for them to make more Legends games. I hope they do. I think most people liked them. Obviously, there are things they could have done to make them way better and more deep and more interesting and more fun and a lot more that you could have done. But I thought it was a solid game. It was something fun to play that was very different than regular Pokemon. And I think it's something that they could build on, or at least take the good parts from it and move them into the future Pokemon games. That would be cool as well.
2 games set in the same
I enjoyed
region
it,
from
though.
2 different time periods, like map locations, logo artwork, and ancestral connections between NPCs. What really tickled—
They need to make battling more of a thing in it if they're going to do it. That would be my only suggestion, is have some sort of gem challenge, or like kind of like the fighting Hapu, what were they called? The leaders of the islands for Sun and Moon. Have at least something where there are important, interesting trainers that you need to battle and beat along the way as well. I think if they made the battling more of a part of the game, it would have been a better, well-rounded overall game.
my theorist senses were the differences between the two regions that seem to have happened in that 140-year gap. There are some obvious ones, like the region's name being changed from Hisui to Sinnoh and isolated camps evolving into urbanized cities, but clearly I'm not here to talk about my love of geography or urban planning. I'm here to talk about the biggest difference of them all, the Pokemon. There are a good number of Pokemon that we find in the Hisui region that are completely new, ones that don't make an appearance in the Gen 4 games, their remakes, or any other core installment in the series. Doing a quick comparison of the Hisuian Sinnoh dexes shows us that there's a whopping 25 Pokemon that are found somewhere in the Hisui region that are completely
only
absent
25
from other titles. Pokemon like the adorable
Let's be honest, that's a little weak. We only got 25 new Pokemon. That's a little weak.
Owlith and the hauntingly new evolution of Basculin, Basculegion. But why?
Which is so cool.
We've been in this region
Basculegion is cool. They need to make Basculegion a future part of the game and like either make it an evolution or something for Basculin. It was a cool Pokemon. I would like to be able to use it going forward.
Everything there is to see here, and yet in the 140
the Stantler like could be an evolution of Stantler. The Quillfish obviously is an alternate form, but like you could make these alternate forms in future games, or you could use them as inspiration for evolutions for some of these, because they gave stuff to Pokemon that kind of sucked, other than like Growlithe, but like Basculin needed an evolution, Quillfish needed an evolution, Stantler needed an evolution.
History between this game and Gen 4,
I mean, not necessarily needed, but it made them better.
Wiped out. Unsurprisingly, the game never explicitly says what happened to all these Pokemon. Based on my findings, it's for a good reason. You see,
probably
they're
not
shielding
good.
us from the truth. We killed them. We're responsible. We're the reason those 25 Pokemon variants are gone now. We made them go extinct. So come with me, loyal theorists, as we go big lore hunting to figure out what exactly happened to all these new
What did we do?
Pokemon.
What did we do?
Before we set off on adventure, we have to be equipped like a Pokemon trainer. Have you ever stopped to think about how much stuff a trainer actually needs to carry around? Rare stones, candies, antidotes, whatever the heck a TM is. And that is where our newest line of theory wear comes in. That's right, where beer loud out towards them, but ending merch.
Okay, buy their merch if you like game theory. Oh my gosh, that's long.
Wardeer, the
all right, there we go.
Speaking of, let's start by looking at one of the first new Pokemon that we get to see in the game. Wardeer, the long-awaited evolution for the Pokemon Stantler. Now, in Legends Arceus, Stantlers are plentiful. You practically trip over these guys. But in Sinnoh, not so much. They can only be obtained on one specific route using the Poke Radar. And as for Wardeer, they don't exist. Like, not at all. For a Stantler to become a Wardeer, it needs to use the move Psy Shield Bash a total of 20 times. But Psy Shield Bash isn't a move that Stantlers can learn in games set in the future.
So why?
Not only has the overall number of Stantlers shrunk, but it's also lost the ability to use a move that's critical for its evolution into Wardeer. That's weird, right? So inevitably I have to ask the question, why? Clearly the game designers consciously made this decision, so what are they trying to tell us? What reason would Stantlers have to forget an entire move? Well, Wardeer's Pokedex entry actually gives us a hint.
The black orbs shine.
I guess I can't use my normal Pokedex voice since this game doesn't have an electronic Pokedex. Gotta go with the old-fashioned method.
The black orbs shine with an uncanny light when the Pokemon is erecting invisible barriers. The fur shed from its beard retains heat well and is highly useful material for winter clothing.
Useful in cold weather, huh? Sure sounds like something that the citizens of the cold Hisuian...
So it probably warmed up too much for them to need this adaptation anymore, I'm guessing is what... That's my guess for what he's going to say.
...region would find pretty valuable. Once people read that Pokedex entry, it's likely they're going to be tempted to try and get their hands on Wardeer to obtain that precious fur, especially as they continue expanding into areas like the Icy
Oh, I didn't
North.
think about that. Trying to steal their fur might have made them go extinct and made Stantler stop trying to evolve into Wardeer because they were going to end up getting killed or losing their fur.
It would seem like Wardeer were hunted to extinction for their fur, while the remaining Stantlers did their best to avoid evolving, choosing to flee rather than fight, much like real-life deer are known to do. For the Stantlers, evolving just wasn't worth the added stat increase if it made it harder to survive. After generations and generations of Stantlers avoiding fights with humans, and especially avoiding the use of Psy Shield Bash out of a fear of evolving, they would eventually forget how to use the move entirely in order to help their chances of survival.
It isn't that many generations, though. 140 years? That's what, like, how long do deer live? I don't even know. Do they live 10, 20 years, maybe? So that's like 7 generations, 7 to 10 generations of deer. I don't know if they would forget a move that fast, or evolve or adapt that fast.
Ice Shield Bash means no evolving. Means
Seems a little
no
quick.
Wordier. And they aren't the only species that was basically bullied into extinction either.
Oh, no.
Take the Hisuian Quillfish, a regional
So
variant that's been
cool.
totally wiped out from Sinnoh by the time Gen 4 rolls around.
So
Looking at its
cool.
Pokedex entry, though, immediately you start to see why this guy might have been on the chopping block. It tells us that
Fishers detest this troublesome Pokemon because it sprays poison from its spines, getting it everywhere. A different form of Quillfish lives in other regions.
if you look at the Cobalt coastline, one of the main locations for Hisuian Quillfish, we see that in the intervening 140 years, this actually becomes Gen 4's Route 223, a prime fishing location thanks to the Sunny Shore Market and a swimming location on the way to Victory Road. What this tells us is that fishermen, fed up with the poisonous quillfish, hunted them to extinction so the coastline could be better used for commercial and recreational purposes.
Which
They
makes
eliminated
sense.
what they saw as a problematic fish, which directly leads to what we see in Sinnoh years later. And it's not like it would be hard for them to do either, considering the Diamond and Pearl Pokedex entries call the quillfish a poor swimmer. There's also a second reason that fishermen might have wanted to get their hands on the quillfish, but this one isn't as directly called out. Food. We've talked over on Food Theory about eating Pokemon, but quillfish are likely to be a delicacy in this universe. There's a type of real-world pufferfish called fugu. It contains a super deadly neurotoxin, just like our good old poisoned type Hisuian quillfish, and it too is a delicacy in many parts of Japan, only being served
I've
by
heard of that
specially
before.
trained chefs who know how to prepare the meat without killing their customers. Hisuian quillfish would probably work in the same way. Regardless, though, whether it was to clear a nuisance or fill the restaurants, humans
Probably
were the
both.
ones that wiped these guys out from the coastlines of Hisui. Speaking of being hunted, let's look at two more examples of hunted Pokemon, Hisuian Voltorbs and Electrodes. Looking at them, it's immediately clear that these two have had some of the most dramatic changes in their design. The Kanto versions of these Pokemon are made of some sort of metal-like compound, while the Hisuian Electrodes Pokedex entry says that the
Made
body
of
is
wood,
made of a,
right?
quote, material curiously similar to apricorn
Oh,
wood.
apricorn
Now,
wood.
this
Yeah,
is an important
wood.
detail because historically, apricorns were used to make Pokeballs. In Legends Arceus, apricorns are
So they probably hunted and
everywhere.
killed
But in
them to
Sinnoh,
use the
there's
materials
no more
for
of these trees
Pokeballs.
to be found. So what happened? Well, by the end of Legends Arceus, because of the work that we did throughout the game, people are now looking to catch Pokemon for themselves. As a result, it's likely that they began to harvest apricorns at an alarming rate to craft their own Pokeballs. But in the rush, no one thought to do it sustainably. And suddenly, there are no more apricorn trees left in the region. So, without the wood to build Pokeballs, what do you do then?
Oh no.
Start to hunt the animal that has a body made of a very similar wood, Hisuian Voltorbs and Electrodes. Over time, to avoid going extinct, Hisuian Voltorb and Electrode may have evolved into their metal form that would prevent them from getting poached by the would-be Kurtz of the world. And this directly mirrors the animal behavior that we see in real life. Many elephants are slaughtered specifically for their tusks, right? Well, this has historically been happening so much that elephants in heavily hunted areas are now starting to evolve to have
Oh,
smaller
wow.
tusks, or even no tusks at all.
I didn't know that was a real thing. That's crazy. That shows me that animals can adapt and evolve a little faster than I thought they could.
Since poachers are hunting them for those tusks, elephants with no tusks have an evolutionary advantage, thereby passing that trait along. Just like a
Cool.
metal Voltorb and Electrode would have a survival advantage over their wood variants. But it wasn't just over-hunting that was a problem in that 140-year period. It was also an overuse of the region's resources. Ursaluna and Cleaver are two new evolutions of Ursaring and Scyther that we see in Legends Arceus that require the use of a specific item to evolve. Ursaring needs the peat block, and Scyther needs the black augurite. And while Ursaring and Scyther are certainly easy to obtain in the Gen 4 games, their evolutions aren't present because neither of these items exist anymore, which we can explain by looking at the differences between Hisui and Sinnoh. The peat block item is based on the real-life material known as, well, peat. Basically, it's like a precursor to coal. It takes thousands of years to form, and it can be burned for fuel. Based on the cities that we see in Gen 4, it's clear that there was an increase in industrialization in the Sinnoh region. Industrialization means machines, and machines need
resources.
fuel. And hey, look, here's a readily available material that's just laying here with no other discernible purpose. Might as well use it until it's gone. Black augurite actually suffers a similar fate. The name originally led me to believe that black augurite is based off the mineral augite. However, looking at the in-game sprites and description, the two don't seem to line up. Its black, glassy texture actually makes it more likely to be obsidian. Obsidian's a material that's made from the rapid cooling of lava, and it's been used for centuries as a sharp material for tools. The only active volcano that we see in the Hisui region is this one off the Cobalt coastland, which, based on its shape, is what they call a cinder cone volcano. volcano. Cinder cone volcanoes don't tend to make obsidian. The only other place it could have come from is Mount Coronet, which the box art does seem to imply is a volcano, but it appears to have been dormant for years. Therefore, it's safe to say that black augurite is going to be in limited supply. It, along with peat, are non-renewable resources. So when humanity expanded
Good
its
grief.
presence in
The amount of depth. I'm like learning so much. The amount of depth that this guy went into. Excellent video. Well done. I'm going to finish it, but I just wanted to say that because I'm learning so much and I'm actually like focusing so hard on what he's saying. Because it's actually cool. It's interesting, man. It's like world building stuff that I think is cool because I like how world building goes and like I like seeing worlds that make sense and that actually have some depth and like you can dig into what's going on in them. It's not all just surface level. It's pretty cool. It shows that they do think this stuff out.
The region because the natural environment changed. Arcanine, Avalugg, and Decidueye, who all have Pokedex entries that specifically mention being adapted to the colder climate and snow of the Hisui region. Hisui is an island, and islands are small. When habitats are smaller, that means that the organisms that live there need to become more specialized. For example, take the famous finches studied by Charles Darwin on the Galapagos Islands. What he saw was that each finch evolved a completely unique beak shape based on the island that it lived on. This comes with the benefit of making you really well suited to your environment, but the downside is that if anything changes, then your specialized traits won't do you any good. And that's exactly what happened with these Hisui Pokemon. As humans expanded their reach into the area, as they industrialized, the climate of Hisui became warmer. This uptick in human development, the deforestation that came with it, all of it led to a shift in biodiversity of the region, meaning some of these Pokemon were no longer able to make the cut. Now, these are only a few examples of what happened to these region-specific Pokemon, but you can see the pattern, right? All of these Pokemon
humans caused it
thanks to one specific factor: humans. Humans plundering resources, humans overhunting, humans over-expanding. In the 140 years between Legends Arceus and Gen 4, humans have completely morphed the landscape of the Sinnoh region, and the game designers have clearly thought through that history. They didn't just insert designs and evolutions into this world arbitrarily. The whole thing was thoughtful, intentional. It was told to us through
which is cool.
Pokedex. In the end, we get ourselves a game that has a really strong environmental message if we just bother to piece together the breadcrumbs that they left behind for us. Except there's still one piece that I haven't connected. During the game, we learned that the people of Hisui are afraid of Pokemon. Some even worship them. The little village that you start off in isn't able to expand more because they're afraid to face the monsters that lurk out in the wilderness. But someone changes that, and in so doing, signs Hisui's death warrant. That person is you. At the start of the game, your character is called back in time by the god Pokemon Arceus. When you land, you're immediately tasked with catching Pokemon, something that other people are afraid to do. But you know better. You come from the future, so you persist. You teach people that Pokemon can be your friends, that they can be used to help with chores. You can even collect them and use them for competitive sport. Without this fear of Pokemon, the human race is now able to expand throughout Hisui. Thanks to you, they're no longer afraid to hunt Wordyear for their fur, to exterminate pests like the quillfish, or to use up the land's natural resources. If you had decided to not be a hero, to not save the day, the region would have remained too inhospitable for civilization to truly grow, and humans would have chosen to avoid it entirely. Kinda makes you wonder if that god Pokemon who sent us back in time was so benevolent after all. But hey, here's your last reminder to head on down to the description to get your hands on.
All right, that was a pretty good video. I enjoyed that. I thought that was interesting. Let me know your thoughts on that video and your theories and things that you put together that they might not have down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you can see whenever more reactions come out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.